Buenas noches, Dal.
Yeah, güey.
Julian.
Sí, Julián.
Julian,
Julián.
what inspired you to start your wedding videography business?
Really, what inspired me was just seeing the opportunity. Um, I learned really early on that there's countless weddings going on in DFW. We're just so fortunate to be a hub for weddings that I said, why not? Why not start something on my own? I actually started filming for another company, and they would just hire me to go film on the weekends, and then I would just show up, record, and just send it over, and then that was it. I never really got experience there, like much editing, and so there was something about that I'm like, hey, I'm recording this footage. I want to see it through. I want to see how it's going to present itself in the final edit. I never got to see the edit. Like I would just shoot it and never get to see it. So over time, I just started offering it with friends, and thankfully they trusted me. And so beginning to learn that process, I thought like, hey, I could make a business out of this. I saw that it was a good industry at the time to be in. I had a camera, and so I just started, like anything else, just offering it and learning as you go. I had one camera, and especially with video, like one camera can only do so much. It's not like photo. And then I was like, hey, I need a second camera. And then I got a second camera, and then I quickly learned I need a third camera. So little by little, I'm like, well, I want to do it right, and I want to do it as best as I could. But one other big thing is that I saw how other videographers in the wedding industry, like I would see their edits, and I was so inspired. I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like, I love how they present the wedding day, and that just inspired me to try to implement some of that into my creativity. It all started with putting to like the traditional Mexican weddings. They're all long, 2 hours, and for me, I mean that's all right. It pays the bills, but aside from that, I was always captivated by the highlights. I've always been like a highlights kind of guy. And so when I began again to discover different filmmakers and different editors, it was just one of those things that I'm like, I want to do that to my work. Like I want my work to look like theirs. And yeah, I started implementing like sound effects, transitions, different cuts. That I'm still growing on to this day. So it's just been that.
Once you start editing, you learn more about like how to shoot the wedding day.
Editing, yeah, kind of like working. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, because once you start the editing process, there's no going back to what you already captured, right? And so those are the moments you say like, damn, like that was bad, or I should have shot it at a different focal length, or I should have used a different angle, or like, damn, the lighting is terrible. So you do learn a lot. That's actually a process that I started with one of my buddies who I actually hired. In I've learned that that's the fastest way for him to learn, to go out and film and watch what he did, and more than anything compare it to mine. Like, hey, this is how Julian captures, and this is how I capture. How can I do better? And he can see like, hey, like maybe sometimes his angle is better than mine. So that's totally fine. It's just about being creative, staying creative.
How would you describe your personal style or approach when capturing weddings?
Let me see. My style. You know what? To be honest, I think I'm still discovering it. I think I definitely try to use different focal lengths. I don't like to film the entire day with one lens. So backtrack a little bit. I used to shoot everything at 50 millimeters the entire day on my main camera. And what I started noticing is it gets a little repetitive. Like it's the same distance, it's the same look, which is nice. Like, I used it at a 2.2 aperture, but I don't know, for me, I think I got that from my partner Rafa. Like, I don't know, we get bored, and it's just like it. What I learned is there's no right or wrong way to capture a wedding day. Obviously there is a bad, and there's some that are way better than others, but in the middle there's a lot of different ways that you can capture it and succeed. But I guess my personal style is I don't know if it has a name, but I like using 3 cameras and all like at different focal lengths. Like I like the 70 to 200 to get me like a tight, and then my camera is mainly like a 35, and then I have like another shooter going at like a 85 or 35, just depends. But I like to have those different angles, which maybe some creatives think it's repetitive, but to me, what it translates to is like to your previous question, like with the editing, it translates to different angles to go to in the edit. Like having different angles gives you the opportunity to transition and tell a better story. I think that's my thing. I'm at the beginning, I didn't really used to think much about storytelling, to be honest. It was just documenting. But now I'm working on transitioning to a more storytelling, like, hey, like people have always told me, like, man, you make the day look so much better than it actually was, or maybe the wedding day was not fun, or not that fun, but I always heard that, and I'm just like, but why? But that was back in the day when I was just doing B-roll. It was just B-roll, no sound, no capturing audio, no vocals, no nothing. It was just like a song and the footage. And then over time, again, I started getting bored with that. I'm like, this is not enough. Like, I need more. I need it to feel something different. So that's when I started adding like more like voiceovers or parts of the toast and things like that. To definitely like bump up the production value. That's what I'm about. So, yeah.
How much do your time you spend editing like a wedding?
Like a wedding film? So I've timed myself several times, but I think the range is anywhere between like 10 to 15 hours. I've tried to do it like much faster. So now what I do is I've created a system to where I have like another editor help me like sort of like prepping. And that's like pretty much calling, like running through all the footage. And if it's like a I don't know, 15-second clip, give me like the best 2 to 3 seconds of that clip. So it's almost like one good comparison is I think about it like a kitchen. Like a kitchen, you want to be fast. And so the chef can't be cutting. Exactly, the chef is already at the end, putting it together, heating it, and things like that. So I'm in a phase where I still get really behind on edits, and I feel bad, but it's because I like to spend my time on it and do it right. But I'm definitely working on that workflow to get more people involved to speed it up. But at the end of the day, like everything is still going through me. I'm still like pretty much building, I don't know, 70 to 80% of the edit. So yeah, I mean, it still takes time, but
Are you good at delegating?
honestly, I've gotten so much better.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot better. I used to be super. I still am. I get super invested to where I want to manage everything, but I'm starting to learn that like, hey, getting more people involved helps them learn faster. Like trusting them, like, and they're gonna mess up. They're bound to mess up, but now it's like if they can help me with 3 hours of something, and I only have to come back and help them fix like 30 minutes of it, then hey, they helped me with 2 hours and a half. It's perfect. Like the other half an hour, that's where I just dive in and hey, fix it, boom, 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 and now I can go out. So I think I've gotten a lot better, like letting go, but at the same time, like part of delegating is you also have to teach. Like I think I'm a pretty good teacher. Like I think I can create like workflows and like teach them to people. So I think that has helped a lot because in my opinion, like that's a big part of like being a good leader. You create systems from like the knowledge that I have, right? Like I'm 30. I should have like at least 10 years of this, right? So the knowledge that I have with like somebody that's starting, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna teach you everything that I know. I'm gonna help you cut all the corners
That's great.
because some like I've been able to hang out with some amazing people like Rafa Vadillo. Like he's helped me cut so many corners. Like he's 10 years ahead of me, and if I can help somebody 10 years behind me, like that's all I'm all about, you know. So I don't I don't think it's about any gatekeeping. I think anybody who tries to gatekeep is afraid to get left behind, and I'm just like, dude, you're literally passing information back, not in front of you, because obviously anybody in front of you already knows it. So you're only helping people behind you, and that's totally okay because you're helping them move faster along the line, and that's totally fine. That only makes the industry stronger. So like, and that comes from a mindset too. Like I'm very competitive. I'm super competitive. So it's not like I'm afraid to give anybody like an advantage. I don't think it's really like an advantage. It's just like tools. Like Rafa always tells me, he's like, these are just tools. Like one time he told me, because at the beginning, and I think this is a good story, um, I actually attended one of Rafa's workshops, and and it was just around the time when I started looking for one. And he was the first. Well, long story short, we bumped into each other at an old bar, and so the couple that we were shooting that day, that was one of their favorite places to go, and so Rafa was there with his wife, and so he see he sees me, and it was actually me and my friend Xiomara back in the day, and he pretty much saw us like doing horrible lighting, like we were just messing it all up, and so at the end he like bumps in to my wife and he's like, "Hey, do you think they'd be interested in a workshop?" And so part of me like being prideful, you know, I'm like, who is that guy? Like, what does he know? You know. But little did I know it's fucking Rafa. You know, like he's amazing. And so I went to the workshop and then I just heard him speak, and just him giving out all this knowledge, and I'm just like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I don't know, I don't know what people charge for this, but I thought I got my money's worth, you know. So all that to say, like, I learned that from him. We began like just kind of hanging out, and he would just let me ask him any question, anything, because I was running into a lot of stuff. To be honest, at that time I probably didn't know much about like aperture. I didn't know much about like shutter speed. I didn't understand any of those. Like I knew what they did, but it's different like knowing how to work them together. And then another element's like light, like flash. And so I've just started asking him questions, and I'm just like, man, like he just keeps responding, like he's not afraid, and I'm just like, dude, like he's such a beast. Like, wouldn't he be afraid to like, I don't know, to get jumped or like skipped over? Like people get better than him, and he's like, nah, because he's always learning too. So it's hard to get caught. You're not gonna get caught. Like you already have experience, which experience you can skip certain things, but not 10 years. And so I think that was huge for me. I'm just like, well, here I have somebody who's like become my best friend, giving me a lot of information. I'm like, I have no reason to hold back information for anybody, you know.
What did you enjoy most about working at weddings beyond the videography aspect?
I think one of the big things, because I don't know, at some point I reached like a limit to where I said, man, all weddings are the same. And I was just like, man, like they get repetitive. But what I realized is they get repetitive if you allow them to. What I started doing instead was like, how can I do something different at this wedding? How can I try something different? Like, oh, last wedding I shot it all on the gimbal. Next wedding I'm gonna start shooting it handheld. And so like it just opens up a different different train of thought and process of like how to capture the day. I think that's one thing that I enjoy is like to be able to use the equipment. You know, it's just like you invest so much in the equipment, you're like, hey, here's a live event, capture it, like and figure out the angles. But the question is, aside from from film, I guess working alongside good friends too. Like I love working alongside Rafa and Vero. We pretty much spend 10, 12 hours together and just kind of hang out, talk about the plan, what we're going to do. The food too. I like the food. I don't know. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, it's
things
a good
like
answer.
that. Yeah, like sometimes there's amazing food, and to just see like how creative people are on their wedding day. Like of all the planning that goes on, and sometimes you walk in and you're like, holy crap! Like they took a lot of planning for this wedding. Like that's incredible. Just to see all of those things, and ultimately like not every wedding is the same.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I think I've learned that with time.
What has been the most rewarding part of growing your business?
I think the most rewarding part has been, well, the financial side of it. Like, I think it's been incredible to be able to. The other day I saw a post that said, like, isn't it amazing where you can, how did it go? Something about your art or your talent, like paying the bills, or your creativity, something like that.
Yeah.
And
Before you have your own business, you have a 8 to 5 job. Or?
yeah, so actually where I started was working at so after I graduated from college, I actually worked at Estrella at the
Oh,
Channel
wow.
29. Yeah, so
What do you do there?
so I was in the production department, and so what we would do is like there's a sales department and we were the production department. It was only three of us. So like it was crazy. And like the cameras were like so old. At that time it was like 2017. Those cameras were from like 2010, 2008. And so yeah, just that experience there. I think one of the biggest things was being in front of the owners. Like, cause you go from business to business, just like meeting the different owners, and you're just like, hey, like these people are just they're just regular people who like have a position, but you can talk to them. I think it took that fear away from me. Like, hey, like we're both normal people. Like, how can I be of service to you? Like, I'm here to help you move your product. Like, if it's a car, if you're selling food like tacos or something.
So you're making ads?
We were making commercials.
Okay.
Yeah, 30-second
30
commercials.
second
30, 15, 30-second commercials that were going on the air on Channel 29. So that was cool. I remember the first time that I saw my commercial, I was like, holy frig, this is awesome. Like, we actually shot it and edited it and put it up.
And you have deadlines?
Deadline, yeah. So we had a system, like with my boss, we would call them like production orders, and it would be like, hey, for this client, we're going to have 2 30-seconds and 1 15. And then that would give us kind of an idea to go shoot it, come back, and then edit it. But again, like I really liked working there. I enjoyed working there. But it's just the fact that my equipment at home was better than the equipment there. Like, we didn't even have a drone.
Oh, wow.
It was like a big deal to like, I remember I took my drone one time and everybody was like blown away. Like, they'd never seen a drone. And I'm just like, yeah, they're not that expensive anymore. But it was this whole process to get one there. But I think, again, I'm all about like feeling it myself. I'm like, yeah, I thought it was cool that like that my commercials were going out, but I'm just like, it's not the best camera, not the best lens. Like, again, like that camera was like super outdated. That I'm just like, it could be so much better if we had better equipment. So I wasn't that proud, you can say. So it was kind of weird. Like, I loved what we were doing, but it's just that quality was like, what's happening? Like, why do we have like such old equipment? We didn't have any lights. Like, and this is for a big station at the time, like Channel 29. We're competing with like Univision and Telemundo. So I don't know, that I couldn't understand. So that like, I wasn't inspired. You can say that. But with time, again, that's when I decided to venture off, and I'm just like, hey, I think I've learned enough from my manager there, and I don't want to take his position. I wouldn't enjoy being in his position. So then that's when I said I have to go. Like, there's nowhere else to go.
That was enough for you.
That was it. Yeah,
It.
I did not want to be him. I didn't want his position. It didn't sound fun. So when I realized that, I learned that it was time to venture off and do my own thing. At the time, I was shooting weddings, but it was also COVID. So there was really no weddings.
So that happened in 2020?
Yeah, this was 2020. So my creative agency, I actually started with my buddy in 2020 because it was like a big blow up for like social media because everybody was
At home.
Everybody at home, exactly. And nobody was leaving. Like we couldn't go and shoot like at the dealerships or like any restaurant or nothing. So we were like, what are we supposed to do? And around that time, my buddy that was working at the station too, he actually left first. And he was like, hey, there's a good opportunity in this. Like he was a sales rep. And so he has a lot of connections, my friend Edgar. And so he kept getting reached out by like a lot of the clients. And he was like, hey, they want us to start producing video. But him, like, he doesn't have the specialty background in production. And he was like, dude, what if we partner up? Like, I'll take care of the management and then you just take care of the production. And so that started in 2020. And at that time, I was shooting weddings too, but there was no weddings. So we just like drilled that like social media, and we did really good for like those few years. And then over time, it's just been evolving. But yeah, that aside from the wedding films that I do with Rafael, I also have that.
When did you meet Rafael and start working with him?
Rafa, I met him around the same time. Like I think Rafa's workshop was 2019, and then I got married in 2020. So it was between that time. We were actually looking for a photographer for our wedding. That's a really good point. We were looking for a photographer. I went to his camp, or what is it called? His workshop. And man, what was that? 2020? Let me think. No, so it was like around ending 2019. I proposed, and then like beginning of 2020. That's when we kind of started being really good friends, and then we just kept hanging out. We both love drinking a lot. We love having a good beer.
Anyway, you want a beer?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take one. Yeah. So around that time, we were looking for a wedding photographer. And it just so happened, like, we became really good friends with Rafa and Vero. And so we just kept hanging out, and I kept learning from him. And we just formed a good friendship. And then he ended up shooting our wedding. I was like, hey, like, I know you charge this much, but I'm like, what would you charge me? What would you charge me to just, like, shoot and drop? Which anybody in the game knows that's like pretty much capture it and I'll take care of the editing, right? And he was like, "It's gonna like, man, for you guys, I'll do it for X amount." I'm like, "Bro, I really appreciate that." I'm like, "Done." Like, where do I sign? Now looking back, I regret it because he's one of my best friends. I'm mad that he didn't get to enjoy my wedding. You know, so it was like a bad decision, but good decision because the photos are amazing. But yeah, we after that like filmed he captured our wedding, and then what is that, 21 now? Again, we just continued on being good friends, and then came up the conversation. We were like, hey, dude, like we used to offer video, like Rafa Vadillo under his name, but he's like, it's just not for us. Like it's just too much. And I'm just like, well, that's my favorite. Like, I do like shooting photo, but my specialty is video. I enjoy video a lot. I like editing. And just naturally the conversation came up. I'm like, dude, what if we just partner up? And
that's great.
And Rafa's thing was like, yeah, dude, because honestly, I hate working with a lot of videographers. I'm like, all right, I'll take that. Like, let me make sure that he doesn't hate me working with me. You know. But now over time, it's just been like an easy blend. I think we both just really understand each other. We stay out of each other's way too, like without even saying anything. I think we do a good job of like planning things, like the first look and stuff. We're like, hey, we're gonna set up here, and also like the way that he sets up his lights. Like I also know how to work around them too, you know. So it's about helping each other. And enjoying the day too. That's a big thing, because dude, it's 10, 12 hours. Like you get tired of people sometimes, you know. But with us, it's like, man, we hang out for the 10 hours, and then after we go get drinks for another 3 hours.
That's amazing.
So it's just their family, you know, at this point.
It's easy for you to stay relaxed during the event, or you get like a stress?
Man, that's a really good question. I used to stress out a lot. But that was because I wasn't prepared. Like, I didn't know my equipment. I didn't have a plan. And I learned that too, like working alongside Rafa. Like, I would see him, and again, he has a lot of experience, but I would see that he was always prepared. Like, he already knew if this moment was gonna happen, this is where I needed to be. I don't know if it was like a mix of like me not knowing my equipment at the time so much, or me not having the experience. But over time, it's like become like, well, yeah, like that's gonna happen. We need to be here. Boom, boom, boom. You know. So I think I definitely stress less. I think my wife will tell you otherwise. But I think I pretty much got it down to like, hey, okay. Because there's a lot of decisions. There's like, okay, wait, tripod or gimbal. Like, these are things that photo doesn't even think about. Photo is just like, oh, I got my body. What? Oh, how far is it? Focal length, whatever. It's first like tripod, monopod, or gimbal, or handheld, and then what lens? And I'm just like, and then are we shooting it in 24 FPS? Or are we shooting it in 60? Fuck, it's a lot of decisions, you know. So I'm just like, but now I pretty much decided. Like, back then, I used to shoot the entire day in 60 FPS. And that was just pretty much for safety, like, in case I wanted to slow something down later. But what I started learning was a lot of the footage I don't even slow down. There are only certain moments where I know, like, hey, we're shooting in 60 FPS no matter what. But again, I think it's that experience that you pick up over time that it's like you're ready for the situation.
So you usually shoot at 24 frames or 30?
Let's say, no, 24.
24.
Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't give you a good reason why other than I've always heard that was like the standard, like that it's the more natural looking 24 versus 30. And really, like, another thing too that I started implementing recently is using like ND filters. Again, because I just used to, the term is crank the shutter. Mm-hmm. You've heard that one, right? Where you just go to like 1/4000 or 1/8000. And now it's just, I don't know. Some people might think it's extra, but I'm at a point in like my career where I'm just like, I want to do it right. Like, the proper thing is shoot it 24 frames per second, 1/50. But now 1/50 you need an ND filter because it's gonna be too bright. And so now I'm like learning a lot about like base ISOs and a lot of that. So I shoot the majority of the day in 24, but again, like for their mini session and stuff, which I know I'm gonna slow it down. It's gonna be in 60.
60.
Yeah, because I think my biggest thing is, one, you save a lot on the memory too, and then two, I think it's fun. It's more challenging. It's like, hey, like, is this a 24 or is this a 60? You know, I like to challenge myself and know, like, okay, I know there's gonna be, these are the toast 24. That's an easy one, or these are it's the efficient 24 because there's like lip movement. So I just kind of follow those rules, and I'm just stepping away from just shooting everything in 60.
How do you balance your personal life with the demanding of running a wedding videography business?
It's really hard, to be honest. It's something that I'm still working on. I think the biggest thing that I've, at least like the past 2-3 years maybe, I'm trying to find that balance. Like, it's weird because we leave the 9 to 5 and now we're free, which is it's like, okay, like, you're working right now. What time is it? It's 6:47. If you work the 9 to 5, you would be home already.
And forget about the job.
Yeah, forget about the job. That's another big thing. One of my good friends works at GM factory, building cars. And he told me this one day. He finally saw it, and he's like, we were hanging out after, like, around, he gets home like 4, so we were hanging out like 6 or 7. And I had a client call me, and so I was like, bro, I'm sorry, I got to pick it up. It was like 7. And I'm on the phone with this guy for like 30 minutes. But it was like a deal was about to happen. Like, he was interested. He wanted to hire me for this wedding. and I'm just like, bro, I'm sorry. I have to take this call. And when I finished, he was like, bro, you know, one thing that I just learned is like, he's like, yeah, I stress about my job, but he's like, once I leave, I'm done. And he's like, I don't even have to think about it until tomorrow when I show up at 7. And I'm just like, yeah, bro, like that's literally it. Like you're almost working 24/7, almost. But I think
Sometimes even in your dreams.
in your dreams you're still like problem solving. Yeah, and again, like I would consider myself. I don't know. You consider yourself like a workaholic? You think your wife considers you that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm a workaholic.
I think we have that. We're like workaholics, and I think I don't know. It's one of those things like you know how they say work smart, not hard, but it's like, fuck. Like in order to work smart, you need to work hard first and like learn. But what I've done is now that pretty much like I'm my own boss. I try to structure. It's weird. I try to structure my day like 9 to 5 as much as possible. Just to be to one thing that I've learned recently. I heard this in a podcast where the guy said, he says creatives. I guess the phrase that I would use is creatives work best or better. One of those under pressure, and I think I work better under pressure. Like if there's a deadline tomorrow, I'm gonna get it done. Like because I get so hyper fixated on that. Like that's my deadline. If the deadline is up in the air, I struggle because it's like, I go to La La Land. Like, I have all the time. Like, dude, I have today, I have tomorrow. Yeah. What do you say?
So you put yourselves deadlines for works or?
To be honest, I give a window. I give a window, like turnaround. It could be like 1 to 2 months. But again, it just all depends. Sometimes we're really pushing that 2 months and we might get over like a week or two, you know, but I definitely work better with deadlines. And I didn't know that was a thing. I learned that from one of my good friends. Like he told me, he's like, dude, if there's no pressure to like either mess up or get paid, like, or you're like, if you don't turn it in, you're not going to get paid. Like, oh, you said consequences. He's like, if there's no consequences, he's like, I'm not good. And so consequences are like the client not hiring you, the client not paying you, you not getting any more business. And it's just like, living with that fear. So I always have this fear on my back where I'm just like, like I need to finish it. But it's a balance with it. But all that to say, like, I do try to structure like intense editing from like 9 to 5 because back in the day when I was younger, like 10 years ago, for example, like I used to be able to stay up all night and like edit. And sometimes, like very rare, maybe once a month, I do that on emergency. Like I'm up from like 11 to 4 a.m. or something. But now it's like the next day I'm dead. It's like I'm hungover. Like I need to recover. So I'm just like, I can't do this. Like I can't sprint. I need to be better at running marathons. And that takes discipline and time. It's like, okay, like this edit's gonna be 10 hours. How do I break it up in 5 days? Oh, that's only 2 hours a day. Easy, right? But when it's time to execute, I still struggle with that. It's like you're your own boss, but you're also your own. You're your own boss. You have to wait for yourself and be like, hey, like, no playing around. Like this is your deadline, or you're in trouble. The consequences. I work well with that, but I hold myself accountable because last thing I'll say about this. One of my favorite quotes recently is, if you don't... Here, I wrote it down. It's good.
You write it? You write it?
I wrote it down, yeah, so I won't forget it. I had to tell one of my buddies on it too. Where is it? Here it is. It is if you don't lock in and do the work on the time that you decide, because obviously we're bosses, we're our own boss, we get to decide. The work will decide for you.
Oh wow!
So work meaning the client. It could be several things, but if I didn't decide to do it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the client's been asking for it, or starts asking for it on Friday. I'm not doing anything else but that on Friday. When maybe I had a family event or something on Friday, I'm just like, I've ran into that situation so many times that I'm just like, dude, you got to get better. Like, because things will overlap. Like, you're going to miss out on some event that you wanted to go to or X, Y, and Z, you know? And that's because I've given control to the work and I've allowed it to dictate when I have to work on it. And I hate that. Like, when that happens, I'm so mad at myself. But it's my fault. I have nobody else. Fault, right? I think that's part of growing up. Like, you have to accept responsibility and say, I have nobody else to blame. It's my fault. Yeah. So, yeah, it's part of learning, man.
Are there any other hobbies or interests you have to inspire your creative work?
I guess one of my biggest influences in my life is sports. I've always loved sports. I've loved the competition, yeah, is one thing, but also like the like highlight packages that go around sports. I guess that's been one of my biggest influence. Two things, and I was thinking about that this week. Like sports, I guess an easy summary of that one's like ESPN. And then another one is WWE, which is huge for me. Like, growing up in those days, I guess this is a good time to tell you, like, why I love film or video, for example. Like, back in the day, like, WWE, yeah, there was, like, the matches and stuff. But then they would do... You watch WWE or not?
Yeah,
you know?
It was
like,
fun.
Those packages, there were, like, those highlight packages that, like, specifically, like, one, The Rock versus Stone Cold. So, they were pretty much selling to me, and I didn't know. But they would get me so excited. But pretty much what it was they're hype. It's a hype. They're hyping you up to buy the pay-per-view, which was WrestleMania. I think it was like, I don't know, WrestleMania 18 at the time. And they put together these highlights like, hey, these guys hate each other. Like, and it's like them fighting. And like from several times of them fighting, it was like a package, like with voiceover, with music. Like, it was those packages that like really inspired me, because one thing those things did, that package was, it moved me. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't miss this. You know, like, yeah, I didn't buy the pay-per-view because I didn't have money back then. Like, I couldn't convince my parents to spend $50 on it. But what it did do was, it was just like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. You know, like, and you know what I'm talking about, like the highlight package,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. The way the video moves you something inside of you,
Yeah.
like trying to
but
watch it.
It's like a 1 to 3 minute like recap of like, hey, this is the storyline and this is the event. You don't want to miss it. And over time, I've learned like that's a part of the sales pitch. It's like, hey, for anybody that has money, in my position, I would have bought it. I would have been like, I can't miss that pay-per-view. I gotta watch it. So same thing with like with packages for like NFL or like NBA. Like, I've always just loved like those they're highlights. It's a highlight package, hyping you up for an event that's coming or an event that already happened. Like, I think I've implemented a lot of that into like my wedding game, because it's almost the same elements. You got like audio, you got B-roll, you got different camera angles, you got drone, and then you got and then you have voiceover, and then you have music. So like, it's just a different form of that. I think that's why.
Do you use voiceovers to your wedding films?
Sometimes I do. Like, I guess you consider it voiceover, like, if I'm not showing their face. I don't show their face the entire time when they're speaking. Sometimes I have B-roll going over it. So, yeah, I like voiceover sometimes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Finally, where can couples contact you to try to hire your services?
They can follow me on Instagram. Yeah, sorry, let me say that again. They can follow me on Instagram, Julian Film. It's _Julian Film. And then if you're interested in specifically in any wedding, you can reach out to Rafael Badio as well on that page. And then any marketing, any advertisement work for your business, we specifically try to help out small businesses. You can reach us at createmediatx.com.
That's great. Thank you so much for being with me today. Hope to see you again.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jorge.
Thank you, man.
Yes.